We are here on Real Estate in the Lowcountry, and with me now is Kate.Herman, and she is, of course, with Goosehead Insurance, one of our neighbors here in the WHHI studio building.
Absolutely.
Always good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So as we've talked about renewals several times with each other, and of course, we've also talked about the sticker shock that has come with some of those renewals, and how people are maybe really quick to try and want to change things and get into something that's less expensive. Of course, we all want to do that.
Right.
But there are some things to take into consideration when we're doing that and potentially wanting to go for a change, because that may mean that you have to have an inspection on your house.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the biggest things is everybody, when they do get that sticker shock, they need to talk to a professional, right? Because they just want to make sure that we calm that anxiety, and that's perfectly normal. But one of the things that I did want to talk about today was just mentioning that sometimes, even though there is that sticker shock piece, and it is, I'm sure, gone up much more than you anticipated, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it's best to just stay there. And a couple of reasons why, just to kind of get into that a little bit, is to dissect that a lot of the homes in Hilton Head, specifically in Bluffton too a little bit, are older.
Right.
And homes tend to start to have things fall apart around 20 years or so. I'm not a builder, don't come at me for that, but at the same juncture, like traditionally speaking, like things start, you need to update some wear and tear, right?
Right.
And because there are so few companies here and there aren't that many insurers that are willing to cover your home, if you're getting a renewal, it might not be worth your time to shop, because those insurers, those carriers, are really, really picky about their underwriting guidelines.
Right.
So things like, is your roof older than 10, 15 years old? That might be really hard to find a spot for right now. Is your water heater in the attic? Some carriers will limit your water damage to $10,000, which is not fun, right?
Yeah, right, because you know that water is going everywhere.
That's going everywhere.
Yeah.
If it explodes, bye-bye first, second floor, that sucks.
Oh my gosh.
So, right, I know
I was just like, I was like giving me hives right now.
But like, if you're grandfathered into a program, if you do have your water heater in the attic and it's fully covered, sometimes that's the better solution.
Sure.
Even though it might not be saving you money by staying there, your house might be more covered.
Right. Very good point. It's
right.
Very interesting. Yeah. And so what are some of the other reasons why it might be like just okay to let it chill for a minute?
Yeah. I mean, right now we're anticipating, knock on whatever wood you can and pray to whatever you believe in, and just hope that the market does start to correct itself. Hard markets last about a generation, which typically is about 25 to 30 years. And
That's a long time.
It's
for
a
long
time.
But
we've been in it since 2002.
Okay.
So we're close.
That's good. Okay.
So if our math tracks right, you know, like we should be starting to see some relief here in the next 18 to 24 months, hopefully, if research does prove the cyclical periods are correct. And you might just need to ride it out for a year until there's other markets available to properly insure you.
Yeah. And so when somebody does, you know, as we've said so many times, get that piece of paper in the mail and think, oh my goodness, you said it's the best thing to do to call a professional right away. Yeah,
or just double check with your agent and just make sure that somebody's looking at it with you to talk about these points, right? Like if I have a client right now who wants to reshop for sure. However, I did debrief with them. I'm like, listen, we're definitely going to check markets. We're going to go over everything that we can and make sure that we're looking at everything we do have available. However, your renewal right now might still be your best solution because their roof is 19 years old.
Yeah.
So there might not be markets that'll cover that roof. And even though they're going to cover the roof maybe just for one more year or two, it's better than only having actual cash value on it now.
Right. And what about somebody who is actually just, you know, they've just sold a home or they're purchasing a home here, and they, you know, this is a new home to them, but maybe not a new home in general.
Right.
How do they go about getting the best coverage for them in this kind of a market?
Absolutely. That's a great question, and one that we definitely have to approach on a case-by-case basis.
Of course, sure.
But there are some things where, I mean, especially if it's been upgraded and has a lot of updates, like you can clearly tell that this 1960s home has been touched in the last 2 years, right?
Right.
There's probably some proof of upgrades from the town, which is great. Sometimes the seller has them, which is even better, but most thoroughly, when you're talking to an insurance professional to get new insurance, we go through that with you. We make sure like, hey, like this house was built in this time. We need to check those updates and work together to make sure we find the best solution if that's the house you want.
Yeah. Well, Kate, it's always good to see you, and got a lot for us to think about today, really.
I know.
But it was, it's very good information, because your first instinct is to we've got to change this immediately.
Right.
But thank you for giving us some perspective on that.
Thank you so much.